Cooking Mama.
It's time for the Cooking Mama Cook-Off Review for the Wii. I've always had a level of interest in this game when it first came out, but I figured it was another one of those restaurateur games you can play for free on the internet or download from an app store. However, this game is not that deep, I guess you could say. You don't manage a restaurant or even set foot in one. All you do is cook different types of recipes from various countries. Have you guys ever played any of the WarioWare games, or seen my WarioWare Smooth Moves review? This game feels similar to that, except without the frills and humor of WarioWare. Basically, this game feels like a huge minigame. In single-player mode, you get to choose from a selection of dishes to cook. When you choose one, you'll go through each step to create it. You'll cut, and shred, and stir, and set different temperatures to create each recipe. While on a step, you have a short amount of time to complete it, but you also have to do it correctly, of course, to receive a better score in the end. There are certain steps where if you mess up once, or even multiple times, you can still receive a really good score if you at least finish the step before the time runs out. Before you move on to a step, you'll receive instructions on how to perform it correctly. However, some of these steps can be vague, and you might not understand fully of what or when to perform an action until it's too late and you mess up the step. Most of the steps are simple enough to understand, but when you're learning it for the first time and have a very limited time limit, it can be confusing. When you complete the full recipe, your final score will be tallied and you'll be graded based on that score. After that, you'll be awarded with a new recipe to complete. There's a mode where you get to compete against the computer, which is in the form of another player from a certain country around the world. It's kind of fun, but the computers seem to never make a mistake. When you finish with a dish, both scores are tallied to determine a winner. I'm not sure if it matters if you win or lose in this mode, because after the scores, the computer player will give you an item to decorate your kitchen with. Wouldn't you think you would have to win to receive the prize? What's the incentive to win if you're just going to get the prize regardless of the outcome? Playing against a friend is much more fun than the two previous modes. You don't receive anything after completing a dish, except gloating rights, which is better than any in-game prize. The graphics are good for this type of game. However, I noticed that many of the ingredients used for meat dishes, mainly seafood, looked pretty realistic for a game where the overall graphics look cartoony. Not saying it's bad, just seemed out of place, and sometimes just gross. The controls are good for the most part, however some actions seemed too unresponsive. A lot of the time the accuracy was low and you had to really point and move in the correct ways so the sensors could pick up your actions when you needed them to. I've heard the DS Cooking Mama games are better for these reasons. There's not much to do other than those three modes, except you can look around your kitchen at the gifts your computer friends gave you. Cooking Mama Cook-Off is an okay game. Good graphics for this type of game, mostly good controls, many different recipes to learn and try out, and competing against your friends is fun. However, the game feels very shallow. I can't believe this was $50 at the time of its release. No way is it worth that. Like I said before, it feels like one giant minigame. This is definitely a game for kids, which isn't a bad thing, but for older players, I feel like there's no real reason to play this unless you just want to have on record that you played this game, or unless you just love cooking. There might be more incentive to play if there was an online mode where you could compete with one another, but since it's a local-only multiplayer game, I don't see myself coming back to it. I'd say it's a good game for young kids to play with their parents. Everyone else, though, you'll probably want to play something else. This game gets a 2.75 out of 5 with a title of mediocre.